damn, like that should be me. You know what I mean? Like when you know you should be doing something, but there's so many things in the way kind of blocking you from getting there. I had to get to the point to where I removed those obstacles in the way because, to be honest, I put them there. Hello, everyone out there. It feels so weird, but so right to welcome you to the Eat, Cry, Yap podcast. I am your host, Kenalia Cooper, and I'm so excited to have you here joining me on this podcasting journey. I'm literally, if you are listening to this, you probably can't see how geeked I am, but if you are watching this, there is a huge smile just beaming off of my face because, look, y'all, this has been a long time coming, okay? I mean, a lot of work in therapy, a lot of getting over imposter syndrome, and a lot of being like, oh shit, am I going to do this now or am I going to wait? And I felt like now was the perfect time to take the leap, rip off the Band-Aid, and do something that I've wanted to do for so long, which is yap my little butt off to anyone who's willing to listen. Eat, Cry, Yap is something that was just tapping on my shoulder and in the back of my mind. Finally, the timing, the journey, and the confidence came. And this little baby of mine is finally spreading her wings and joining the ether of the podcast world. Now, you may be wondering, why did you choose Eat, Cry, Yap to be your title? Well, let's be real. What are the things that we like to do most that make us happy? That's what was on my mind when I was really trying to figure out, like, what do I want to title this thing? What do I want this podcast to be based on? The primary driver for creating this podcast was to create a space for community and building connection. And some of my favorite, if not most prominent things that I do to build connection and to feel closer to people is I eat with them, I frequently cry with them, and I yap with them. And from this podcast, you can expect food-based interviews where I will sit down with some of my most favorite people in the world or some people that are much smarter than me, and we will connect and storytell while trying very interesting or new foods to me. My food palette, while I consider myself to be a foodie, there are a lot of foods that I haven't tried before. And I thought, why not, through this venture, try new things? And one of those new things is trying foods out of my comfort zone. Another way I connect, as I said, is I cry with people. I get in touch with my feels. And, one thing that I feel like in society, when it comes to feelings and crying and just showing emotion, I mean, damn, it is difficult. Not to mention just as a woman, not to mention as a Black woman, but I feel like as a human being, like we're not often, I feel like, what's the word I'm looking for? We're not often put in positions to where we feel comfortable to do that. And I see this podcast being a safe space to show emotion, share emotion, and heal through emotion. And then finally, look, podcasting is all about yapping, let's be honest. And one thing that I feel like God has blessed me with is the gift of the gab. Whether I make sense all the time or say things that make sense to people is neither here nor there. Chatting is a very, very easy way to build connection with people, and yapping, telling stories, is something that is truly close to my heart, specifically stories that are unorthodox, stories that we do not hear all the time in the media, in the podcasting space, you name it, as well as, stories that are unpopular. And This is what this podcast is here to do. And so I welcome you to come on this journey with me and listen and laugh and hopefully take away something that you can utilize in your life, or hell, a funny story to get you through your day. Because let's be real, life is tough. This world is ugly, and we can all use more yapping in our lives. Let's be real. So I welcome you. All right. Well, to start us off, I feel like it would be great to give y'all a little update on my life, introduce you to my life and what's going on in my world through what will be the segment that will start off this podcast when you are listening to me weekly, that I'm entitling "What's the Tea?" What's the Tea is gonna catch y'all up on the latest on what's going on in world events, world news, maybe social media, what's trending on social media, and or what is popping in the reality TV, movie, music space. Because those are areas that, listen, y'all, I am a reality TV girly, tried and true, and I spend way too much time on my couch watching movies, watching TV, listening to music. And so I want to yap about it here with y'all weekly. But this week, I'm going to dish the tea on me. I feel like you all should get a glimpse of who you're rocking with here. And so let's talk a little bit about what's going on in my world right now. You know, I have been, let's be honest, I've been struggling, y'all. I'm a corporate girly. I have been working in the corporate space for 3 years now. I've been with the same company for 5 years and have moved around a bit around the company and have gone from corporate job to corporate job to corporate job. And look, y'all, I don't know how much longer I've got in me. Like, the corporate world is no joke. And this time of year, it is December. And so this time of year in the corporate space is crazy. It is not fun. It is work, work, work. It is busy, busy, busy. It's we want everything right now because everything is on fire. When in reality, everything is not on fire. When in reality, everybody's about to be on vacation and does not need to be sin for work right now. But, you know, I don't get paid the big bucks to make these decisions. I just have to do what I'm told. And so I've been trying to find a balance of managing what feels like an ever-growing workload, as well as managing a lot of the day-to-day things I have to do and keeping myself sane. Because I work a project-based job, and so a lot of the work that I do relies on other people to do their jobs. And if there is one thing that I have noticed in the corporate space is that a lot of people don't want to do their job, but they get paid the big bucks to do nothing. And then those of us that do our jobs are swamped trying to make sure other people do their job and we get our work across the finish line. And so I had to get to this space where I could not allow myself to be hunkered down by the weight of my job, the stress of my job, the politics of my job, the bullying at my job. I really had to, and this sounds so corny, bear with me, but work-life balance had to become a priority for me. And thanks to my therapist, bless her heart, my therapist is the real one. By the way, you will hear lots about therapy in this podcast. I am pro-therapy. Therapy has changed my life, and I hope therapy can do something for your life. Anyway, sidebar. Thanks to my therapist, I have been able to find tools to help me manage my stress and kind of compartmentalize where I put things in my life. And for so long, work was, it was right up there on my priority list. Like, I would say work was right under family. You know, like it was high up. I mean, let's be real. I'm a single girly. I don't have kids. My child is my cat. My 3-year-old cat, Jackson, bless his heart. He's a demon, but bless his heart. That is my child. And so it is very easy. And those of you who are corporate single girlies or career-driven girlies know what I mean when I talk about work can so easily become life. And so I had to get to the point to where I could compartmentalize where I put work. And work, thankfully, is now, okay, I wouldn't say like work is like the scum under my shoe, but now, let's just say now I can slap my laptop shut on Fridays and not check my work email and not check my work Slack and not be stressed over the weekend. Like, oh, like, what do I have to do? Or, oh, is this person pinging me? Now I'm just like, look, it's going to get done come Monday. The work will get done. Everything is not on fire right now. I am not a brain surgeon. I am not a doctor. And let me tell y'all, that reality is life changing. Okay. Like, I feel like I was a workaholic. And so to get to the point where I'm like, fuck that job. Come the weekend, it's just, I feel like life has seemed bigger without that major stressor kind of weighing me down. And so it's been nice. It's been nice to have balance between separating work from my life and focusing more on shit that I'd rather be doing. Let's be honest. And so through that work, through working with my therapist and figuring out how to manage my stress and where my priorities lies, came room to think about my passion. And little background, I went to school for journalism, and my dream for the longest time was to be a journalist. And I went to school for it, did internships, structured my life around, I'm going to be the next Gail. I'm going to be the next Oprah, right? But then, thank goodness for internships. Although they can be a scam, especially if they are free. That may be an unpopular opinion, but I feel like all internships should be paid. But that's not the point here. Thank goodness for internships, because through that experience, I realized, the traditional route for journalism might not be for me. I don't know that I want to go to some random town with population 30 people and work my ass off day and night to tell stories that may or may not even make the air, just to then move to another state and do the same thing all over again. I felt like, look, I'm broke. I just got out of school. I need to make money. And so, I decided to pursue my minor, which was in public relations. And while looking for a job about 5 months out of school, I found a job at my company now and worked my way up to now being a corporate girly. But, there's something about not living in your purpose and not moving in the direction that aligns closest to your passions, what you enjoy, what brings you life, that is stifling. And for a long time, I navigated life kind of like, I'm just navigating life. I'm not really living. I'm just going through the motions. I'm just working my job. I'm just going to these things. And I had like this empty feeling. Do you know that feeling, when you just feel like I need more out of life, like where you feel like you're missing something and you can't put your finger on it, but you're not being fulfilled? That's how I felt over the last It's been 7-ish years since I've been out of college now. Shoot, my memory is bad. My college friends will probably remind me of that, but something around there. It's been around that time. And I've just had this empty feeling. And so my journey has now brought me to the space to where I've been evaluating, what brings me life? What brings me joy? What excites me? And I came back to storytelling. And I've been watching all of these different podcasts over time, watching all of these people in the media and feeling like, damn, like that should be me. You know what I mean? Like when you should be doing something, but there's so many things in the way kind of blocking you from getting there. I had to get to the point to where I removed those obstacles in the way, because to be honest, I put them there. And so when I tell y'all I am so excited to be in this moment, chatting and just yapping my mouth off to y'all, it's such like a full circle. Like this is meant to be. Whether 30, 10, 5 people listen to this podcast, it's so exciting for me to be able to storytell and share opinions that are not the opinions you hear all the time. And that's something that I feel is missing in the podcast space right now, is missing in the media world right now, is the stories that I have to tell. And I'm so excited to get into the weeds of the stories that I'm going to bring to light through this podcast. And so I appreciate those of you who are listening for already jumping on this wave, because it's going to be a good one. I am very excited to see where this journey takes me, and I can't wait to hear y'all's feedback on what you think and what you would like to see on this podcast moving forward. So anyways, that was work. Let's talk about outside of work and passion projects. I know I'm getting a little sweaty talking about this, but your girl has been out here dating. And, I think I will do a full episode just yapping about singlehood, because, oh, child, it has been. How would I explain the dating world in Portland, Oregon? For those of you that don't know, I'm based in Portland, Oregon, which, if you don't know where it is, because I know it sounds like a fairy tale faraway land, it's not. It's in the Pacific Northwest, literally right above California. Now, if you're thinking, oh, you're right above California, there must be a lot of diversity, there must be this, and that, I want you to just go ahead and lower your expectations, baby, because California and Oregon are two completely different worlds, okay? We have fishermen up here. And when I mean fishermen, I mean men who post pictures on their dating profiles holding fish. That's what I mean. We have, what are they called? Hipsters. We have hipster dudes up here. We have non-monogamous dudes up here. And no shade to the non-monog people, but I am not non-monogamous. I am a monogamous girly. We also have very emotionally unavailable men, which I feel like I'm now getting into the territory of how it is everywhere. Because from what I hear, it's trash just about everywhere. But in Oregon specifically, if you are a Black woman trying to date in this dating pond, you are going to find yourself going through a series of unfortunate events. Because when I tell y'all I have dealt with an array of weird white men, I mean an array of weird white men. From the fetishizers to the, oh, I'm so sorry about your Black struggles, to, I've never been with a Black girl before, but I want to try it. Like, it has been a lot. But I will say, this time in my dating journey is different. I met someone. He's not my man yet. But he's been interesting enough to keep around and normal enough to not want to ghost. Now look, I know what you're thinking. Wow, horrible. She said ghosting. Let's be honest, okay? There are some occasions where it is perfectly applicable and okay to ghost a mofo, okay? I know that ghosting is so wrong and so mean. Trust me, I have been on the receiving end multiple times. But I feel like women, people who identify as women, deserve to pull a ghosting card every now and then. Because let's be honest, these men be treacherous. These men be dangerous. And these men be disrespectful and scary. And so I do believe that there are situations where it is perfectly okay to ghost someone and not owe them a response, not owe them a thank you for a date, not owe them a, oh, I would love to go on another, I would love to take blah, blah, blah. Listen, if someone crosses a boundary, if someone puts you and your property in danger, or if someone just makes you uncomfortable, especially if you have not been dating long enough to owe them anything, I think it's perfectly okay to ghost a man. Now, I know some people have some conflicting opinions, so I would love to hear y'all's thoughts. But in my mind, we live in a world where there are serial killers, and we have lived in that world for a long time, let's be honest. And so I think every woman deserves a hall pass to ghost a dude here and there. And I feel like that is something that we deserve. And I can't say I feel the same way about men, but I feel like men have rights too. men have wrongs too. And so that is not what we're going to talk about today, but that's just how I feel. So anyways, this guy has been decent enough to not ghost, decent enough to spend time with weekly now, and kind and understanding enough to maybe stick around. Now let's not get too crazy here, okay? Let's not think that we have not been also talking to other people, because we are very much single here. But I think it's nice when you've been working on yourself, you've done the work you need to make sure that you are a good partner. And when you've dealt with enough trash bags out in this dating world to finally come across a man's who's worth your time and giving you the energy that you deserve. Okay, that is a keeper in my opinion. And so, look, it's been 2 months with this person, and let's see if they will continue to, stick around and continue to show up in the way that they are, because literally every time I hang out with this man, he surprises me. I can't say I haven't tried to push him away here and there. Listen, I'm a healing girly. I am not completely healed. We have our issues, but he's interesting. I was gonna say special, but I feel like you can't give a man too much. You can't give them an inch because they try to take a mile. You know what I mean? So we're just gonna say he's special, a nice friend, and we will see what happens over time. I'd say the last thing that I've really been into lately is reality TV. Listen, y'all, this time of year, I feel that TV networks like Bravo really bring it with the on rotation shows. Okay, what have I been watching? I'm glad you asked. Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and Real Housewives of Potomac have been in my constant rotation. I also started watching, there's a new show on Bravo called Selling Salt Lake City, I believe. Y'all, it is pretty good. Now, I will say, or sorry, not selling on Salt Lake. It's sold on Salt Lake City. I have to say, this new ensemble cast is bringing it. I've never seen any of these people in my life, which I love, because let's be honest. Yeah, people love to see familiar faces, celebrities, people who have already been on TV, whatever. But I think that what's great about reality TV is that most of the time, people don't come in with a large following. They just come in with money, right? Like, that's usually, at least on Bravo, that's usually, I feel like, the only strong must have these people have. And so these people, never seen them before, and they are the hybrid, the most prominent realtors in the Salt Lake area. And you just see the inner workings of what it's like for Mormon-based realtors that are in a market that is very hot and has definitely very much grown in popularity due to more shows coming out there, like The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, which is now a top favorite reality TV show for so many people. And so what I'm enjoying about this show so far is that there's a Black woman, all white cast. I think there's maybe two. There's one Black woman, and I think there's one Hispanic woman. There's another woman who I'm not sure what her ethnicity is, but everyone else is white. And one thing that I love on an ensemble cast, especially that's predominantly white, is when the producers ensure that the people of color on the show are getting as much attention, I would say, if not more in some cases, more attention to their stories and the work that they do, especially on real estate shows. I'd say the last show that I have been watching has been, I literally started this 2 days ago, y'all. So, Married at First Sight. That show. So, they are, I don't know, maybe 19 seasons deep now. I feel like that show is pretty close to 20 seasons. It has been on TV for forever, okay? If you haven't heard of the show, the premise of Married at First Sight is people who have tried dating through various outline apps, you name it, and have failed for whatever reason, and decide they want to marry a stranger without ever having seen, heard, or spoken to them before. Their first time meeting is where? At the altar. And then they go on a honeymoon with this stranger. And from there, live a married life, living together in an apartment the show gives them, meeting each other's friends and family, and trying to figure out within, I think the show gives them, maybe 3 months max. And of course, all of these things are happening during the 3 months. They have to decide on what they call decision day, whether or not they want to stay married. Now, I may be traditional in the sense that, for one, I'm only getting married one time. And I really love the traditions of getting married when it comes to like, you have your bridal shower and you have, your bachelorette party and all the cute little things that happen leading up to that in the traditional sense. And I would feel robbed if I just skipped all of that. If I skipped my partner asking my dad for my hand in marriage, like, I love that stuff. Like, I love it. And I could not also jump the gun on, I don't know, dating someone before I decide if I want to marry them or not. Like, I feel like that's kind of important. Dating after you get married to someone, I feel like is just too risky because this is a stranger. You don't know that this person is your match. Although there are experts that set you up with this person, you don't know a lot of things and you're having to actively learn them while you're legally tied to this person. I don't know. It's just too much. It's too risky and you never know with strangers. And watch someone catch me wrong on reality TV. Like, watch somebody flip a switch and you're stuck in an apartment with them and being recorded on TV. Like, listen, I have to say these people are brave. They are bold. And I'll leave it at they're brave and they're bold. I got to give it to them because they are. Like, you have to be courageous to take a risk like that. And it just couldn't be me, child. Those are some of my faves right now. And I feel like some seasons have ended like right before these shows started. And the same is going to happen. And I know like Bravo definitely like reintegrates new seasons of different shows while seasons are currently happening. So listen, y'all, like my list is growing. I will have lots of opinions to give on some of these storylines that are happening, especially on the Housewives. So stay tuned here weekly to hear my opinions on some of these reality TV shows and some of y'all's favorites. Let me know what some of y'all's favorites are so I can get those in my regular lineup. All right, today we are, as I mentioned earlier, we are yapping about me. We are orienting y'all on who I am as a person and topics that are important to me to yap about. And, when I was thinking about this episode specifically and the fact that I was going to base it on, yapping, introducing y'all to me, it definitely made me a bit nervous because although I am an extrovert, literally have been one my whole life, like I'm talking, I would take those personality tests back in high school and I was I always ranked a 90% or above extrovert. Okay, so I've always been a little extra. I'm also a Pisces. I'm a water sign, so I'm very inept at feeling and talking about emotions. And I'm also a people person. And so you would think with that trifecta that it would not be difficult for me to talk about myself. But in reality, it is one of the most difficult things for me to do. And, it took me a long time to figure out why that is. Like, why is it that with my personality type, with the way I'm in touch with emotions, with the way I like to talk to people and be around people, why is it so hard? Why is it so easy, for me to talk about so many other things, so many trivial things? But when it comes to talking about me or talking about what I enjoy to do or talking about things that are important to me, why is it so difficult? Like, what is off in my brain, my chemistry? Like, what is it? And through therapy, you sometimes do, or often do, I should say, some processing. And I had to really think back into, my life and my upbringing and my past and so many things to try to help paint the picture of how I got to this point, struggling with talking about myself, which feels so weird to even say, but it's a real thing. And I was able to pinpoint it back to my upbringing. I grew up in a very religious household. I grew up specifically as a Seventh-day Adventist. Now, what is a Seventh-day Adventist? I know a lot of you have probably never heard of that in your life, or you have. Seventh-day Adventism, I would liken it to Judaism, because Seventh-day Adventists practice honoring the Sabbath, which is a time period of rest and focus on God and worshiping God and honoring God via rest, because Adventists believe that on the seventh day, which to their practices and teachings, the seventh day is the Sabbath, and the Sabbath for Adventists falls on Saturdays. And so from Friday night to Saturday night, Adventists and Jews, from what I understand, traditionally practice honoring the Sabbath on that time period. So I grew up not being able to play sports on Friday nights or Saturday mornings or any point on Saturday unless it fell on Saturday nights. I grew up not being able to eat certain foods because Adventists eat a healthier diet, which is traditionally a vegetarian or vegan diet, because according to their practices that they base a lot upon the Bible, there are things such as unclean foods. And unclean foods, according to them, are red meat, are bottom feeders, shellfish. And so I grew up eating a diet that's not actually that weird, of more so like turkey, chicken. I would stay away from beef. My family would eat beef, but I personally never liked beef, so that was easy. But staying away more so from the unclean foods because it isn't healthy for you. And also, if you want to be holy, you would follow these practices. And I also grew up with the practice of selflessness and giving your all and focusing your attention on helping others and serving others, taking attention away from yourself and putting attention on other people, because through their practices and teaches, they see Jesus as a selfless person who gave to the poor and who helped all of these people. And so to be like God is to be selfless. And I remember there being a heavy, heavy emphasis through church people, pastors, you name it, on, if you talk about yourself or bring any orientation to yourself, that's a liken to being conceited, or that's a liken to being selfish, or that's a liken in general to sin. And if you don't want to be a sinner, you need to be selfless. You need to be giving. You need to focus yourself on what can I do for other people's instead of what can I do for myself. So having those teachings, those values ingrained in you for your entire upbringing and being surrounded in a culture that is very focused on identity is tied in religion that you don't necessarily agree with, but that you're forced to be in, your brain is conditioned to think a certain way. For me, I took those values and teachings to a different degree because I'm an older sister. And those of you that are older siblings out there know what it's like to be an older sibling that is often seen as another parent, right? Because you're in charge when your parents are gone. You're looking after your siblings. You hold responsibilities. You know what I mean? And so selflessness eventually came easy to me. And focusing on everyone else being good around me and doing whatever I can to be holy, which means there can't be any sort of attention or focus on me to any extent because I don't want to be a sinner, had me to a point to where eventually when I was getting to know people and going on job interviews, I'm struggling to communicate anything about me. I'm struggling to communicate my needs and my wants in relationships. I'm struggling on how to set boundaries. Like it just morphed itself into so many things. And going from the kid to the teenager to the adult lens, it morphed into imposter syndrome. Now, for those of you that don't know what imposter syndrome is, it's essentially the belief that you are not qualified or smart enough to do something as much as someone else, or someone else will be better at this than me, or I don't deserve to sit at this table. It's essentially a heavy comparison that weighs you back from doing things that you are more than inept at doing, but that comparison via imposter syndrome, comparing yourself to others, staggers you or heavily influences you and causes an internal struggle. And it wasn't until, I started hearing things like imposter syndrome and started processing a lot of my behaviors through therapy to where I was really able to pinpoint this is why, but also make sense why. There's something about learning something about yourself that you could not figure out for so long. And then being able to accept that and also acknowledge that it makes sense. I think everything in this life that we face, or every struggle specifically that we face, personally, I feel like how we react to those situations comes from somewhere. I don't think that anything we do in this life or anything that we've gone through or experienced, or the way we react to things in the world, I don't believe that it's unintentional. I think everything comes from somewhere. There is a reason why, or something that we went through that kind of impacted the way that we deal with it now. And so I had to get to a point to where I not only could understand why I was struggling with this, where it came from, and then acknowledging it, to then being like, but I have the power. I have the choice to decide what I'm going to do about this now. And so I got to a point to where I had to start mentally telling myself and mentally quieting the imposter syndrome to basically shut the fuck up. I am qualified for this job, so I'm going to go for this job. I am not selfish for thinking that I want to say what I want to say. I am not a selfish person, or I am not a sinner for sharing my needs or for bringing attention to myself in any form or fashion. I think there were a lot of extremes that were placed on I feel like a lot of people. And I think in a lot of people, in a lot of churches, there are a lot of extreme ideals, a lot of extreme practices that people are accustomed to. And you get to a point, if you come out of that space, to where you're like, that was wild. And do I still feel that way? And I'm so grateful to be in a place to where I don't feel that way anymore. Although imposter syndrome has become the resounding pieces of that part of my life. And I'm human. It's definitely a constant thing where I'm constantly having those mental conversations with myself to remind myself that it's okay. And I feel crazy sometimes for having to have those mental conversations. And I've been learning that I'm not crazy, and I've just been through stuff, And so now I can see and feel how important it is to share that, because I know that there are a lot of people like me who grew up in religious environments, households, churches, cultures where a lot of ideals and practices were forced upon you and really influenced the way that you see the world, who have come out of those environments and struggle with navigating life outside of that environment and who need a safe space to share those things. And I think that as awkward and as uncomfortable as it feels to stretch myself in this way of things that I wouldn't have said years ago, or living my life out loud in this way that I wouldn't have years ago, is not only freeing and healing for me, but I hope is freeing and healing for someone else out there. And so that is just a piece of my story. Being someone who's story oriented, I feel that stories are so important because stories tell us who people are. Stories provide context, and stories help us to connect to people. And that truly is my goal for this podcast, is to be able to connect with other people who have similar and or different experiences than me, and have a space where we can chat about how to navigate this wild ass life that we live in this horrible world that we live, and provide a space for us to say the things that we haven't always felt comfortable saying, and share opinions that we don't always hear often and need to, and have a space to feel like we can show up as our full selves. And I hope that you all feel that as you listen to these stories. Hopefully you will continue to listen to these stories week to week. And so if you're bumping with what I'm selling here, not actually selling, but if you're rocking with what I have to share, I invite you to check me out wherever you get your podcasts every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific time. That's on Spotify. That's on Apple Podcasts. That's on YouTube, because I will be dishing the tea on lots of stories, eating interesting foods, and helping us heal together in this space here on Eat, Cry, and Yap. So catch me every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Pacific time. And you can follow me on Instagram at ECY_podcast. And you can follow me personally at I_am. Thanks for rocking with me. And I hope to see you next week on Eat, Cry, and Yap. Bye, y'all.